Look, what if a single TV milestone could redefine reality TV for a whole generation? Today, we're diving into The Bachelorette, Before the First Rose, not just a TV special, but a backstage pass into the psychology, the strategy, and the spectacle that shapes every rose that follows. Taylor Frankie Paul steps into the mansion as the chosen lead, and the episode is less about dating today and more about the choreography behind the show. Personally, I think this is less about who gets a rose and more about how a new lead reads the room, presses the questions, and stakes her authority in a franchise that loves tradition but thrives on disruption. What makes this really interesting is how the show packages mentorship, scrutiny, and celebrity culture into a single hour of primetime testing ground for a fresh lead. In my opinion, this special is a case study in brand stewardship under the glare of reality TV. We've got 9 key angles to unpack, each with its own twist on what's really happening behind the rose. 1. The power of the invitation. Taylor's decision to sit with the show's most famous failures and successes is less about feedback and more about signaling intent. What this means, she's not just asking for advice, she's staking a claim on the season's narrative arc. This matters because it reframes leadership as listening with a strategic aim, not simply collecting opinions. What people misunderstand is that mentorship here is performative. It's also diagnostic, a way to calibrate her own vibe against a gallery of past leads who've shaped the show's norms. From my perspective, the bigger trend is reality TV leader development becoming a public, consultative act rather than a private trial. A detail I find fascinating is the presence of the Golden Bachelorette, Joan Vassos, among the participants. It creates a bridge between eras, showing how the franchise likens mentorship to lineage, not just advice. If you take a step back and think about it, this reinforces the show's obsession with legacy while still chasing novelty. This raises a deeper question: can a new lead honor the tradition while rewriting the playbook? 2. The timing of the premiere and the Oscars backdrop. The special follows the Academy Awards, turning entertainment into a meta-performance about fame, glamour, and accountability. What this implies is that ABC is explicitly aligning The Bachelorette with Hollywood's current moment, layering prestige onto reality TV. What people don't realize is how this can set expectations for tone. Will the season feel more red carpet, or more confessional cottage? In my opinion, the Oscars timing signals a bid to pull in a broader audience who tunes in for spectacle as much as drama. This also highlights a practical pattern. Cross-event premieres can juice discovery by piggybacking on live viewing attention. What this really suggests is a strategy where reality shows leverage other big events to maximize first-week engagement, a trend we're seeing across streaming and broadcast alike. 3. The cast as a chorus of authority. Having a lineup of 18 former bachelorettes act as a living archive inside the mansion creates a dual effect: credibility for Taylor and a reminder to viewers of the franchise's long memory. What it means: every future rose is measured not just against the new lead's choices, but against the court of past decisions. This matters because it reframes trust the process as a negotiation with history. What many people don't realize is how this setup intensifies the audience's own sense of judgment. Viewers feel they're part of a jury, not just spectators. A detail I find fascinating is how the show balances reverence with critique. Past leads can celebrate growth while challenging present decisions, which creates a dynamic tension that keeps the show edible for both loyal fans and casual onlookers. 4. The anatomy of the first rose as narrative pressure. The first rose ceremony is a ritual that serves as a microcosm of the season's storytelling. Who is seen, who is heard, and who is sidelined before the crowd even fully settles. What this implies is that early choices aren't just about romance. They're about pacing, audience loyalty, and the story's spine. From my perspective, people underestimate how much the order and tone of the first rose communicates the show's implicit rules for the entire run. The moment is also a rumor mill engine. Tiny signals, a smile, a glance, a pause, become the season's first predictive signals about who will last. This is a perfect example of how media literacy matters. The show feeds our appetite for pattern recognition, even when it's manufactured for TV. 5. The ethics of reality alignment and personal brands. Taylor's visibility on Hulu's The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives adds a cross-brand layer to her public persona. What this means is a delicate balancing act between multiple fan bases, each with its own expectations. This matters because it tests how authentic a lead can be when balancing real-life narrative with a manufactured dating format. What people miss is how this is really a test of personal branding under scrutiny. Can she stay true to herself while serving the franchise's needs? This also reflects a broader trend. Reality stars are building multi-platform empires, and every televised moment becomes a promo for a portfolio of content. From my view, the era of a single show defining a celeb's identity is fading. Now it's a web of appearances and affiliations that collectively shape public perception. 6. The role of mentorship as a performance tool. The advice session sequence is less about getting practical dating tips and more about demonstration. Taylor showcasing openness, analytical thinking, and decisive leadership. What this implies is a skill set that's transferable beyond dating shows: listening, synthesis, and the ability to act on learning in real time. In my opinion, this segment illustrates how reality TV increasingly prizes leadership intelligence just as much as competition dynamics. What people misunderstand is that mentorship here is a show mechanic, not a mere consultation. It's a narrative device designed to reveal character under pressure, and that's the real engine behind viewer investment. 7. The franchise's resilience in a streaming era. The special's existence signals that The Bachelorette remains a durable asset even as streaming changes how we watch. What this means: consistent annual drama plus curated nostalgia functions as both comfort food and a fresh hook for new audiences. This matters because it demonstrates how legacy formats can survive disruption by leaning into meta-commentary and cross-promo, a strong signal that long-running franchises can evolve rather than expire. A detail I find fascinating is how the cast list blends iconic past leads with newer faces, creating a continuum rather than a disjointed reboot. If you zoom out, this is a blueprint for how to maintain continuity while inviting novelty. 8. Viewer psychology, anticipation versus scrutiny. The special leans into anticipation of Taylor's leadership style, while also inviting a critical look at how past contestants' advice lands. What this implies is that audience sentiment hinges on perceived authenticity and the lead's willingness to break from convention. From my perspective, the tension between following tradition and testing new approaches is what keeps viewers hooked week after week. What many people don't realize is how the show uses this moment to calibrate expectations for rose distribution. Not just who gets a rose, but what kind of relationships the audience believes are possible. This deeper layer matters for fans who care about the authenticity of the dating journey versus the spectacle of the set piece. 9. The question at the edge. What does this season signal for the franchise as a whole? If Taylor can navigate the balance between reverence for the show's history and a bold new voice, it could set the tone for future seasons. More self-aware narration, more diversified leads, and a sharper cultural critique embedded in the dating format. What this really suggests is that the show might be moving toward a version of reality romance that treats the audience as co-creators of meaning rather than passive viewers. A detail that stands out is how the show positions mentorship and leadership as core narratives, suggesting the franchise understands that modern audiences care as much about the on-screen dynamics behind the dating as the actual dates themselves. Closing thought. If you take a step back, The Bachelorette, Before the First Rose isn't just a bridge to a season, it's a microlab about how modern reality TV negotiates identity, power, and narrative ownership in a world where viewers expect transparency, critique, and personality in equal measure. What do you think Taylor's first big move should be to set the right tone for the season? Drop your takes in the comments, and tell me which past leads approach you think she should emulate, or reinvent.